Hey friend, Colin here from Sumthins Recording, and today I'm going to show you the benefit of mixing during the mastering process. We're going to be looking at adding some of the mixing process into the mastering process today. Usually it kind of works the opposite way. You see people adding the mastering process into their mixing process with limiters and compressors and what have you. We're going to go the opposite way today by adding my mix bus chain into a mastering workflow. And this is going to help you get a more comfortable sound or more consistent sound, especially if you're always adhering to a certain mix bus chain, But before we dive in here, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process and really start to dial in your workflow as an audio engineer, then definitely check out the link in the description for my 7-step mixing checklist. This is going to help you get a repeatable workflow, a repeatable 7-step workflow for cranking out professional sounding mixes right from your home studio. It is a free PDF download, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Now let's jump in here and take a look at this song. This is a little bit of an interesting project I'm working through here. These are songs that are ripped off of cassettes from like the 90s of this artist, and we're trying to digitize them here for the family of the artist. This is an artist named Lori Williams Nichols. Let me play you this song here. It's a pretty cool song, lots of great guitar work, lots of great vocal work on it as well. But you can hear they sound a little bit dated, so we're trying to do a little bit of modernizing here with the mastering process by bringing in some of my mix bus chain here. So here's our finished sound, and then I'll take off all our processing. You can hear where the track started.
Talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out.
You can hear the main benefit of pulling in the mix bus chain here is all of that weight and that little bit of analog vibe that we get that warms up this song. Pulling something off of cassette into a digital domain, we're starting to get some of that digititis, some of that flatness is leaking in onto the song here. So I want to try and negate that with the little bit of console shaping, the tape machine that we're pulling in. If we look at the EQ that's going on the actual track here, this looks very similar to the mastering process. This is usually the kind of moves I'm making usually more on a normal master. Small half dB, maybe full dB moves to try and shape the song to sit a little bit better. Pulling in a full mix bus chain is a little bit out of the ordinary for me, and it's pulling in some of that mixing process into the mastering domain. But this is getting me a sound that I'm more comfortable with on this track because I'm usually mixing through my mix bus chain here. So let's break it down here, and we'll start with the raw track. I'm pulling in the mix bus chain first before I'm doing the usual mastering work here with the more subtle EQ moves. So take a listen here. We're gonna pull in the console shaper first. Here's without it, and then I'll click it in.
Talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out.
We're not doing much in terms of the settings here on the console shaper. I'm running it at 0 here on the drive, and then our noise and our crosstalk are turned off. The only thing turned on is the drive, and it's actually parked at 0. But what we're getting from this, to me, is that illusion of the band playing live together. I want you to take a listen here. If you close your eyes and visualize the band, without the console shaper, it feels pretty flat, and it feels more like, you're listening to, a song on the radio or something like that. When I click the console shaper in, it gives me this sense of depth that you can kind of see where everybody is in the room in the band. So take a listen without it, and then I'll click it in.
Talk it out, talk and talk and talk, talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk.
So the main thing we're doing here is just trying to negate some of that flatness from pulling in a cassette sound into a digital world, pulling off some of that digititis and giving the track some depth here with the console shaper. Now the next piece here of my mix bus chain that we're pulling in is the Brit comp here, which is the SSL style bus compressor, my mix bus compressor, and this is going to give us a little bit of control. I would maybe do some compression during mastering, but you can see this track is pretty even all the way through, so it doesn't need any form of compression to level it out here. The transients aren't very sharp. It doesn't need any kind of attack altering or anything like that from a compressor, but this is going to give me some fatness, and it's going to kind of glue all the pieces of the track here a little bit better together. So take a listen without it, and then I'll click it in here. We're doing a 30 millisecond attack, 100 millisecond release, so trying to be pretty gentle there, 2-to-1 ratio, doing a dB of makeup because we're only going to be doing maybe a dB or two of reduction here on the compressor.
Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out.
The compressor's doing a couple things here. Because it is a more analog style compressor, it's modeled after the SSL style bus compressor, it does give me a little bit of weight and warmth in the bottom end, which I like. But the main thing it's doing for me is controlling some of the transients on the kick and snare. It's evening those out, and it's actually helping to push her vocal more out front here, which is what I'm liking. It's the mastering process here, so we don't have much control over the level balances between the instruments, but little things like this can help adjust the balances of this track. So that's the main thing we're getting here from the compressor with only a dB or two of reduction. The last piece of the mix bus chain here, last piece of the mixing process that I'm pulling in is the tape machine that goes at the end of my mix bus chain here. I'm only running it just a touch up from the default settings on the soft tube tape machine here, so I'm just bumping the color up to 5.1. I like running it on the B setting here, and you'll hear why. It gives me a ton more weight on a track, and then I'm running it at 30 IPS here, so 30 inches per second on the tape speed. Take a listen here without it, and then I'm going to kick it in. Pay attention to the bottom end, so the bass guitar and the kick drum here when I kick this in.
Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk.
It really helps to fatten up this track, which gives it that little bit more modern edge. Sometimes, back in the 90s, the 80s, is more classic rock style stuff feels a little bit thinner. It doesn't have that modern weight to it. So throwing it through this tape machine here and running it on the B setting, which gives us that bottom end warmth and weight, helps this track feel a little bit more modern and a little bit more competitive here. Take a listen one more time. Focus on that bass guitar, focus on that kick drum. It also helps to tighten the relationship between our two bottom end elements here. So without and then with.
Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk. Talk it out. Talk it out. Talk and talk and talk.
Something like the tape machine here that strengthens the relationship between the kick drum and the bass guitar can also really help a band like the Shine. So you can hear, even without the tape machine, they're a pretty tight band. All all playing together like this. The bass player and the drummer are really tight together, and it's helping this song feel really, really powerful. But when we strengthen that relationship with something like this that's emphasizing that bottom end, it just helps this band and this song shine that much more. So that's the mix bus processing. That's the mixing element that we're pulling in to the mastering process. The last piece of the puzzle here is these subtle moves here that are more mastering style EQ moves. So I'm going to A-B all of them together here since they're more subtle moves. I'm bringing up some of the low mid area here. We have a lot of mid range going on this track, which is a more 90s style feel here. We didn't have that weight, and we don't have necessarily the shine on the top end. A lot of mid range emphasis. So I'm pulling a little bit of this down here at 700 and about 1.5K, a dB down there and a dB down here. And then I'm pulling up a half a dB in the low mid here to help fatten it up a little bit and make it feel more full range. And then just a half a dB up on the top end. It gives her vocal some shine, and it gives the top end on the kick drum and the snare drum some shimmer as well. So take a listen without the EQ, and then I'll click it in.
Talk it out, talk and talk and talk. Talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk. Talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk. Talk it out, talk it out, talk and talk and talk. Talk it out.
There's subtle moves, but it's just that final level of frequency balancing to get this track where it needs to. So if you're more comfortable in the mixing process and you don't do a lot of mastering here, pulling in your mix bus chain, pulling in some of the mixing process can help you get your master to a more comfortable place, to a more consistent place for you if you're always mixing through a certain mix bus chain. So pulling in that console shaper, my mix bus compressor, and the tape machine helps me get this track to a place that I'm comfortable and confident with. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope it was interesting to see maybe pulling in some of the mixing process into the mastering process instead of vice versa, which is what you normally see with mix engineers, pulling in some of the mastering process and limiting and such like that. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video here, if you're ready to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process and really start dialing in your workflow as an engineer, then definitely check out the link in the description for my 7-step mixing checklist, a free, simple PDF guide that will help you get more professional mixes in less time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.